it's a white part, and it's very confusing. But having the process owner, process operator spelled out, it saves us a lot of problems. This really helps with facilitation. The next couple of steps are typical sidewalk steps. What comes out, what's the output for each step, who's the customer. So typically we'll do a first iteration, all verb nouns. Then we'll figure out for each step, who's the operator, who's the owner. We'll just list them. Then we'll go and we'll do at the same time the output and the customers. And then the next iteration, we'll go and we'll do what goes in it and who gives it to you. So we've practically completed our traditional sidewalk. Would you agree? We're going to enhance this a little further. Because remember, the reason we're doing all of this is so we can identify opportunities for improvement. Next thing we do, we go step by step, and we ask people, what's your trigger? How do you know to start this step? And we kind of stumbled into this. I was asked by a locomotive manufacturer to help me understand why there was such a delay for plans to get approved, when we were drawings to get approved for parts. What I found out is that our junior designers would prepare a drawing, and they would go and put it on their boss's desk. And the boss never knew anything about it. He would come, put his bag on there, put other plans, but the boss would be gone for 2 weeks, and we never knew that there was something that was sitting there waiting. I had the same situation with suppliers in oil and gas. They would send us their manufacturing plans, and our engineers would not be available. So we started asking, how does an engineer know he needs to do it? And better yet, how does our coordinator know that this engineer has received this? It was very simple. We were able to create a workflow with alarms letting us know. But that single project took us from taking about 2 months on average to approve a part, to approve a part drawing, to about 2 days. As you can see, that's pretty big decline. Then the next thing we will do is input and output requirements. And this is where we start setting ourselves up to have good and easy FMEAs in the future. Typically, let's do an example together. Let's say this step is to boil water. What are the inputs that we need to boil water? There's 3 things. Water, heat, and a vessel to hold it, right? So let's say we were going to do an FMEA on that. What could prevent us from getting the water at 100 degrees? Missing water, right? Everybody agree with that? You're pretty satisfied with this? We would move on to the next step of an FMEA, right? What about if I told you that we're going to boil the water at 100 degrees, but when we did all our analysis, for this step, these are the requirements of the established. You need 16 ounces of water in a metal container. The water needs to enter the container at a temperature of 50 degrees. If you have to do the FMEA now, do you just say not having water could prevent you? Or do you start saying, I have too much water, I don't have enough water, the water is at the wrong purity, the water entered at the wrong temperature? All of a sudden, we have 4 potential failures. So by taking the time to clearly define what our input and output requirements are, it really helps us. Another thing that defining our input and output requirements helps us do is when we have to do a project. We have 10 minutes left? Oh, confusing. When you're doing a project, before we used to say, okay, I have this big process map with 15 projects. I cannot do this step, do a project on this and this. I cannot start another project until I finish this one. But if I know what my input requirements are for my step, I don't care what you're going to do on this project to improve it, because your output needs to have these requirements. Your water needs to be at 100 degrees and it needs 16. So I can start another project. Of course, we're going to make sure that there's no local optimization in the project stock, but it allows us to have more projects going on at the same time. an example of how we did it on a process. This is just a rendering. And here you can see all the opportunities for projects you're starting to see. You're really starting to accumulate them. We don't know if we're going to do them, we just know that we have those problems. Now, imagine if now, tell you, we're going to do an FMEA. Why do we do FMEAs? Ensure production. Why else do we do FMEAs?
Investigate failure.
Sorry? Reduce risk? Okay. Is that what you were going to say?
No, we were going to say I was going to say what he just said.
Investigate failure.
Investigate your failures. So in a way, really one of the best times to do FMEAs is when you're designing your process. You're trying to anticipate where you could have failures, where you could have errors. Now, but this is what really happens. Anybody can relate to this? When we're doing an FMEA, we have 20 people in the room, and this happens about 5 minutes after the FMEA. We have one poor soul, usually the person that doesn't know how to type and said, I don't know how to type, or the person that was bragging about the typing skills. And then we have 20 people all over them saying, put this here, put this there, and we have this on a big board like that, and everybody gets frustrated. So the first 5-10 minutes are very intense, and then after that, people start playing Candy, Angry Bird. People, people are talking on their phone. All of a sudden, they have to go to the restroom, to another meeting, and we lose people. So to avoid this, we're going to keep everybody involved using the same principle we use for the 7 ways in the process map. We take our teams, and we're going to put them directly on the wall to do the FMEA on the wall. To do that, and unfortunately, my printer didn't send us those cards in time. These are post-it size cards that we share with our customers. These are like post-its. So at every step, so imagine I have 5 different teams and separated whichever way we decided, and they each have a stack of those cards, and they're going to their section of the process map, which has already all those starbursts, and they're saying, how could this step fail? And they're going to go through the same steps we would do for an FMEA. What could go wrong with this step? What would happen if this did happen? Of course, we'll take some time to do some calibration by explaining to everybody what's severity, detectability, and frequency. And we will calibrate it with everybody. One of the things that we found helps a lot is to do it not only for products, but also process. In some of the steps, the process could fail. So what does a 9 mean for that? Versus the input could be wrong. How often does that happen? What does a 9 mean for a product? So we make sure we do both of those. And then we'll go, how often it happens, severity and detectability. What you can, oh, sorry. What you end up with is a giant process map that has all your failure modes on there. Now, isn't that more fun than having one person and everybody else is trying to type? It also takes less than 20% of the time it would normally take. Now, there's something we still have to do, which is calculate our RPM. So we're still going to have to enter it in some Excel spreadsheet. Except that what we do now, we give everybody a template, and each team, after they've done this, they can have somebody typing and somebody reading to them. So I have 5 people doing that input very quickly. And then we merge it together, and we calculate our risk priority number. So why do we use the risk priority number? Why do we do all of that? For only one reason. Pareto. We know that 20% of our issues could have 80% of the effects. So if we're able to fix those, we'll have that. So everything we've done so far was to get to that point. For us to do our first pass at which are the 20% of issues we're going to work on. We're going to take those 20, because remember, sometimes I'm working with teams of CEOs, sometimes I'm working with operators. At one point, there needs to be a report out so somebody can vet which projects we chose to do and which ones they should do. So we'll take that, And the first thing I'll have them do, so let's say we found 100 issues and we took the top 20. So we quickly write a problem statement for each of those. That also serves as sorting. As you're trying to write the problem statement, very often you realize either you can't measure it or it's not real, and you're able to eliminate them. So that allows you to further eliminate. But the ones that have that preliminary problem statement, this is a problem statement you're going to be giving to a green belt, a black belt, a bronze, a silver candidate for them to start the chart. So you know they're going to refine it. This is just really rough. We take all of that and we add it. So we prepare a special template that we're going to take to management to show them, this is a list of all the projects that we want to do. Now, an interesting thing that starts happening this, and you as a facilitator have to manage it, is people are going to want to give you project ideas. They want to give you solutions. Again, same thing we've done from the beginning. We create a parking lot for them. We capture those. In a way, we're making those people shut up. Listen. But they're happy. They're happy because the project they're dying to work on, I still made the cut. It's still going to be presented to upper management. Questions before I go to the next slide? Others were good so far? I don't know how many of you guys may have heard of a pig chart. A pig chart is a very simple quadrant that lets you know if you're looking at the payoff or benefits you get from the project to the difficulty of the effort you have to do. Some of them are possible, some of them you should implement, some of them are going to be challenging, and some of them you should really kill. And just wanted to introduce this concept because that's what we're going to use as our first wave of prioritization. But before we do that, I'm going to explain how we've modified it using the same concept as an FMEA to put a little bit more consistency. We've added numbers. We decided we're going to grade them just the same way we calculate an RPM. We're going to calculate difficulty and payoff. So we'll start with the x-axis, difficulty. We'll do time times the resource. And we made it very simple. If it takes very little time, we'll give it a 1. If it takes a long time, it's a 9. If it's a job that one person is going to do by themselves, it's a 1. If you have your local team, it's 5. And if you have cross-functional, we'll make it 9. This is really arbitrary. We decided to do that. Next thing we decided to do. So let's say this 5 times 9, this gives us this first line. We'll do the same thing for the benefits, except that we put either, and you have to decide with your team, delay before you can start or delay till you get your benefits. Whichever one you want. You multiply that by the magnitude of the impact you're expecting to have. When you do that, another example here, you have this intersection, and right away lets you know, is this a project that should be killed? All the projects that you know should be killed, you have to quickly review them and say, is this something mandated by OSHA, by ISO? Do I need to even present this to my boss? And all the others, you've already kind of prioritized. And we're going to come back to the pig chart once we talk about Kaizen. So let me ask you a question. How many Kaizen types are there? Are there more than one type of Kaizens? This was a shock for me when I discovered also. There are actually 5 different types of Kaizens. And by the time I'm done showing all 5 of them to you, I bet most of you are going to be nodding your head, wow, I did all 5 types, and I did not know it. The first type is a point Kaizen. Typically, very often, it's a 5S initiative. Is setting up ergonomic workspace. You do some poke-yoking to avoid some mistakes. That's a point Kaizen. This is probably the perfect Kaizen to give somebody that is just starting. It gives a lot of satisfaction. You know you had to finish this. You can see all the processes very quickly. You can see visually, this is how bad it was, this is how good it was. This gives you a lot of positive reinforcement, helps you start getting some good faith in the person, building their trust. and they're done fast. We used to do them in LA in about 4 hours. It was in and out, it's exciting, everybody's excited, we go have pizza afterwards. The next one is the mini Kaizen. You start looking at yourself. I was working at a cooler manufacturer. Each cell had 14 people. This was the most common type of Kaizens we did because it allowed us to do line balancing, fix our cell layout, and we did 5S in the area. This is somebody that's doing the second project. The third one is the Kaizen Blitz. This is probably the one we've all been most used to. You know, we have a team that's formed for a very specific event, for a very specific amount of time. And thanks to all our senseis 15 years ago, it has stuck that it's supposed to be 4 days or 5 days to justify the week they were in the States. And it stayed. The next one is a flow Kaizen. As you all know, currently in the lean world, everybody wants to do a value stream. They don't know why they're doing a value stream. They don't realize that they're doing a glorified process map if you don't put the timing and you don't put all the communication. That's what they think they're doing. This is a very, very, very powerful tool. This is where you need to have experienced facilitators because you're going to be cross-functional. You're going to be affecting an entire organization. And finally, the last type of Kaizen, or supply chain Kaizen. This is where you start working involving your suppliers, your customers. You know, if you're thinking about doing GI just in time for your organization, you might be doing a Kaizen. Now the cool thing about all those Kaizens is the same mentality, is the same logic. The tools can be applied almost the same way, just in a different scope. Would you guys agree? You guys think you've done more than one type of Kaizen without knowing it? For me, once they showed that to me in LA, I realized, wow, a Kaizen doesn't have to last 5 days. I can go do a point Kaizen and get my box checked so I can do better projects. And then we realized we should save those for the new bronze candidates. So why did we do that? How do we combine the pick with the different types of Kaizens? If you think about it, a point Kaizen is going to give you some benefit. Your workstation might be more organized, and it's going to take very little effort. So this is where you would do that. So that lets you know everything that's in this first quadrant would be great for your new candidates. If you're a little bit more involved, you can have a mini Kaizen. Still fairly easy to do, but you get more impact than a point Kaizen. And so on and so forth for your Kaizen Blitz. And then you can do for your flow Kaizen and supply chain Kaizen. Now, the last one, as you can anticipate, you only execute if mandatory. This is probably one of the most important boxes because this is where a lot of people have baby projects. That's their baby. And they were waiting for you to come as a new lean or CI manager to tell you should do this project. If the project is extremely complicated and gives you low value, you put it there. That way the person knows you had the project there. You present it to your stakeholders because that's where they're going to make adjustments based on key business objectives, financial decisions. They help you. Take all that information and we make Kaizen cards for each project. The cards, in this case, we just use 8.5 by 11. You just have the Kaizen title, the problem statement, and a short business case. Just enough information for somebody to start a project. You can adjust that to whichever way you want. And then, first version we did, we just took a bunch of manila folders and we stapled them on the wall. And we were able to put this type of Kaizen. And this is what it ends up looking like. Now we had more money, so we had to get more fancy. We had, you know, where you put the hanging files that you put in your office? We had them and you separate. These are all the point Kaizens, mini Kaizens, Kaizen Blitz, your flow Kaizen, your supply chain Kaizen. And really, this is your Kaizen Kanban. This team went a little bit further and they color-coded. Every red project was a safety project. Every green project was environmental. It was an environmental company. skip the questions, I can give you the rest, because I know we're running out of time. This is me. If you need more information, the information is on the business cards and on the little card. But before you go, I want to open the floor for a few questions, and then I'll put my final comments. Yes, sir.
So with the point Kaizen, since they're so local, would you necessarily have the person responsible for that area to be doing that Kaizen?
It depends. Sometimes it's a combination of the person responsible for that area and your candidate that learns the tool. But what it also helps you do is capture that you did the change, and when somebody comes 2 years later, they can go, if you have a good repository, and see all the projects we've done, why we did it, and what was the outcome. And better yet, it also helps you see how much money you saved. So at the end of the year, you can say, in this department, I saved 50 bucks. But if you do it 1,000 times, that's $50,000.
So you'd actually also do a cost-benefit analysis of doing each action?
Very, very simple. Yeah, you make it much more simple. You simplify it, and as a leader, you provide maybe the hourly labor cost that somebody would have to apply. You give them all the tools, and you assist them. The idea is to have everybody go through the entire process of doing the Kaizen very quickly. Really, in a way, the result almost doesn't matter for people doing their first Kaizen. What you're trying to get them to do is learn the methodology. And once you've done that, that really, really helps. If you have more questions about this, because my moderator is poking me, ASQ is, we are printing, the book is coming out at the end of the year, at the end of July. That goes step by step on how we do this. I just want to check that we met all that we promised to do. Do you feel that we were able to use fundamental tools to identify opportunities for improvement? Our facilitation approach, do you think it could be faster and better in your organization too? And do you think you guys can create a very good project pipeline now? And anybody know that there's 5 Kaizens now? So with all that said, in saying thank you to all of you, I just want to remind you, now you had a spark. You have to go and build a fire in your organization. You go and you do it, and please send me pictures. Any other comments or questions before I go?
Are we able to copy the card that you gave us?
Yes, you can copy the card, and one request that I have been getting, and I finally started working on it, people have asked me if I could have them pre-printed. I am working with a printer. We're trying to find the lowest cost to do it so that you will have them just like Post-its and make it easier for you. If you look at my website, by mid next week, we'll have ways for you to get it. And the presentation is also going to be available in slide format there.
It's already online in the app.
Yep, this is a newer version. Continuous improvement. Thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate it.
I think we got a lot of excellent tools here to use. So a lot of us use, got some ideas on how to use it. Thank you very much.
Good job. Good meeting. I gotta go down and sign in for the next one that I got.
I think I
Right
do too,
next.
so there's another.
Okay, see you later, Scott.
It had like his business and car information on it, but you can get it on the slide online too. It was, but if you look on the shares, there may be some more other cards around. It was-
Well, it's very time because we're running the 2 days, you guys have groups back on point.
Oh, there's like a half an hour.
Yeah, that's, that had me thinking also.
Oh, so we're going to have questions?
We get a lot of mileage on
No, okay. I'm getting a hard time. Until this one time. But I should have had. So we're going to get that one. We all know. We
So,
What do you guys?
I see you, trying to make it tomorrow. Yeah. Were you in here?
That's why I'm like, damn it, I can't even see it, because I was sitting here, so here's what I did. So you think you're not special, okay?
Oh, did I? I don't.
I know. So I posted, seeing everybody's certain post. So I took that great idea.
Nice.
See?
That's.
I don't even have to attend, people won't even know.
Wow.
In fact, I got like, yeah, it's weird, so, here, let's get in line.
Yeah. You gotta head out at lunch.
We usually do this training in one day. Connect on LinkedIn.
I think I want to ask you.
Well, this is yours. Just this, but this is and even for you. We want to go in here.
There we go.
Sir, the AV people. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for coming. Thank you, man. Thank you. Thank you for coming. This is, and we usually do
Check, check.
Déjà, je fais 33 foyers. C'est horrible, hein? Ouais, je sais pas
¿Qué estás haciendo?
Me pegó la clave.
Actually, you know what? Let's just leave them. Thank you, I appreciate it. Let me turn on this camera. Yes. So I'm going, I should have told everybody, I'm gonna have it online.